Okay, so last night I was talking on the phone with a new friend, and she had questions about transitioning, why I decided to transition, things of that sort. So I figured I would share with you all um, to share my own personal story and why I chose to start my transition, when I decided was the right time, how long I thought about things, and things of that nature. So here we go. I will preface this by saying I do not believe that children should be allowed to transition. That's my personal beliefs. Um, that's just how I feel about it. I think that it is a decision that requires a lot of thought that children do not necessarily have the brain capacity to make. And there's also still a lot of life to experience before you fully commit to that decision, in my opinion. So I've known from a very young age that I've always gravitated towards being more feminine, that it was the life that I wanted to experience. I, however, do not think that transitioning makes you a woman. That's my beliefs. I know that's going to piss people off, but sorry about it. Um, I still, however, choose to express myself more femininely. When I was younger, I was not allowed. I wasn't allowed to play with Barbies. I wasn't allowed to dress up. Like, it was very much so a situation where I had to be this, like, man, you're a man, so you have to act like this. But, like, all of the things that I was being told to act like, I didn't like sports. I didn't like working on cars, and, like, the masculine expression that they were trying to force on me was part of the reason why I fell so heavily into addiction, because I felt like who I was not lovable, if that makes sense. So it's like I wasn't allowed to be my true self because everybody else would be mad at me. So I kept myself like small and miserable to make everybody else around me happy. I had gotten into a relationship with a guy who was masculine and also wanted me to be masculine presenting. And like he wanted me to like go to the gym and like lift weights with them. And it was like, I don't want to. And again, it was just another repeating pattern from my childhood of picking people that would only love me if I was one way. Um, so after him and I split up, I moved away from home. Probably, I think I was around 27 when I moved away from home. And that was when well, before I moved away from home, I started, I guess, cross dressing. I started wearing more feminine clothes. I started wearing my hair longer because these were all things that like I've wanted to do since I was a child that I never got to do. And it just felt more of an authentic expression. When I moved away from home, I went even deeper with it. Like I started wearing makeup and expressing myself way more femininely. However, I stayed in this, I guess, part of my transition for about 5 years before I finally decided to take the plunge and start doing hormones or taking hormones. Um, I don't know where my transition is going to progress to. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way. I don't know if that's something that I necessarily want to do, but I follow my soul. So, like, when something keeps calling out to me and it's like, hey, why aren't you doing this? Like, you only get one life. Why aren't you doing this? Do this. I've started to listen to that because I find when I do the things that my soul is calling me to do, I am much happier. And it took me a long time to realize that, like, being this person that everybody else wanted me to be, while it made everybody else around me, I felt like a stranger to myself. I didn't feel like it was who I was. And that was one of the things that, like, I really struggled with. Like, I kept trying to force myself back into this box that was appropriate in society, when pushing myself back into that box is what I feel like is part of the reason I fell so deeply into addiction, because I hated myself. It's not who I wanted to be. It's not the person that I imagined myself growing into. And the fact that I felt like society kept trying to push me into this is like, that's not, like, that's great that it works for you, but that just doesn't work for me. And once I came to that conclusion, that was when I started going by a different name, and like then I started hormones. And while there are some days that I am a manic pixie dream girl and my mood is all over the place and I'm like, oh my god, am I making the right decision? Like there's always that like gut feeling, that like inkling in the back of my mind that's like, keep going, do not give up. Like that you're finally working towards the life that you've always wanted. Like, don't give up on that. Don't give up on your dreams. Even though I will never consider myself to be fully woman, because I feel like a biological woman and, or should I say a cisgender woman and a trans woman, I don't think they're the same. I don't. But I do feel like self-expression is a right. And nobody else has the right to tell you that your self-expression is wrong, whatever that looks like to you. Your self-expression is your self-expression, and self-expression is so important, because without it, we would literally be like Stepford wives. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the guys would all look one way and the women would all look one way, and like, that's not what makes Earth beautiful. What makes Earth beautiful is the diversity and like the differences in things and people and animals and nature. Like, we're not supposed to all be the same. Granted, we are all human, and we all have human rights, and we should all have human rights, like, that apply to everybody, not just a select group. And the fact that that's a thing, that's a whole nother story. But I thought that I would just share how I felt with my transition. I thought about it up until I was like 26, 27 before I started cross-dressing. And I feel like that is probably the best way to go about it as far as like exploring your transition area. I think that finding ways to express yourself more femininely when you're considering making the jump, because it is a huge decision. Like, some of the changes are irreversible. And so it's like, these are things that you really, really need to think about. And I feel like there's other ways that you can choose to express yourself femininely without actually taking that plunge if you decide that's not the route for you. And you're still valid. And you're still loved. And with that, I'm going to end this video. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps somebody. Just know I love you, and that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye. I will finish with saying, sorry, that I didn't start my transition, like, chemically until I was 33 years old. So, don't think it's too late. It's never too late. I love you.